This grout looks like vanilla ice cream, but sets like stone. I have very deep 10mm grout lines to fill in the limestone patio. After doing lots of research, I couldn't find anything to fill these grout lines that looked good and performed well. And it got me thinking, what do the Europeans do? They have lots of tiled spaces, especially around swimming pools. And that's when I found this grout from Bell, which happens to be a company from Stoke-on-Trent where I live. And check this out, it really is an amazing grout because it can be used indoor and outdoor on 1mm to 30mm gaps on porcelain and stone, which is exactly what I'll be using it for. And the thing that really sealed the deal for me was the fact that this can be used in swimming pools, which means it's got to be pretty hard wearing, right? But don't get me wrong, there's always a catch. But for me, the positives outweigh this single negative, and that's the application method. Unlike some of the brushing grouts, this does take a lot longer and does require a bit of skill. And I'm going to break it down into 3 parts so it's easy to visualize and understand. The first one is getting the grout into the gap. I had really deep joints to fill, so I poured it straight from the bucket into the gap, making sure it was a full fill. And the next part is using a scraper or a squeegee to level it all off. If you've done your pouring right, then this is minimal mess. But either way you do it, you're still going to end up with grout on the face of your slab. And that's where the most time consuming and tedious part comes in. It's sponging the face of the slab afterwards. There's definitely a technique behind this, so I'm going to break it down for you. So make sure you like or save this video so you can come back to it later. Depending on how wet you've made your mix does depend on weather conditions, but it also has an impact on when you can sponge it off later. Because of that, for the first 20 minutes after pouring, I could only sponge off the grout that is on the face of the slab and stay away from the grout lines. It made sense to me to remove as much of the excess grout as possible as I went, so that I didn't get as much grout haze on the stone slabs. After about 20 to 30 minutes, I could go back and swipe the sponge over the grout line. But unfortunately, you can't always do it that way, especially when you're up against a wall. These bits take a lot of care and attention. If you accidentally push the grout up against the wall, you can end up with grout on the brickwork, which does look a bit messy, just like I've done here. If you're very careful, you can rub it off with a sponge later. After a quick check-in with the site manager,
does it look good?
Yeah.
I knew I was on track for completion. Oh, and one last tip, make sure you always have clean water in your sponge bucket and don't pour it down the drain. Now I just need an outdoor dining set.